Hey again. But I'm just continuing with my decline of the Western Comics Empire here, part 3. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom here. Basically what I'm saying is comics have, Western comics have come to a crossroad. And it's, they've been going, like let's use 1938. Like, what is that, 84 years now? Since the beginning of Superman. So I've been trying to, do like, it's an autopsy, let's say. It's not an autopsy because what's happening is comics are transforming. I was just watching Rockin Robbie Billups. I'll put the link down below. He's doing his top 20 comics of 2022. The good thing about Robbie Billups is that he actually reads the comics. And everybody likes what they like. That's fine. And he likes what he likes, but the most interesting factor was that 15 were independent publishers, 11 were Image. Like, you can watch the link below, that's fine. But we're moving away from basically the big two. And as I said in my video a couple videos back, copyright and creators. It was in 1938 that Schuster and Siegel signed that work for hire agreement that sort of dictated the terms of comic books over the next 50 or so years until you had like a lot of independent publishers start to spring up. In 54, 55 years, the big one was Image. It's taken a while to go. Like, it's been well over 20 years, almost 30 years actually, for Image. But it was interesting, like on his list, 11 of those books of his top 20 were Image comics. So you can see where it's the independents that are kind of exciting the industry now. The big two have stuck with their intellectual property. And, for the longest time, Batman's been in everything. Spider-Man's been in everything, right? Like, how many guest appearances have been made? How many crossovers? How many world events? Crises, this, that. So, which kind of leads to my second point was collectors and content, right? So, around the mid-80s, the industry shifted into more of a collector's mindset. I'd say mid-80s, and then by the time Image came on board, definitely, because you had all those, like Spawn #1, it was a huge seller. Death of Superman, the X-Men just before, at the sort of peak of that market, before the big implosion, when they relaunched the X-Men title, had all those Jim Lee interlocking covers. See, this is what's interesting. It was the same contents inside. It just had different covers, right? And how many variant covers do we have now? Again, variant covers are for the collector's market. There was foils, there was die cuts. And not only that, like how many #1 issues? They're constantly relaunching titles to snag in collectors and say, it's another #1, buy this, right? Even though, quite honestly, they could have kept the numbering the same and just had a new arc or a new take on that particular character, but it's better for sales if it's a new #1, right? So, now let's get into my number 3 reason why I think we're at this huge crossroads in time, and that would be censorship and children, basically. So in 1954, the Comics Code Authority was launched. You can search that. Many videos have been done. There's tons of websites, that's fine. So that was in 1954. What it did, it basically killed the horror genre, true crime genre. So you had comics dumbed down. The mentality was that it was to protect children, which meant that where comics were for children, which, was mostly true, but it sort of prevented them from maturing. So they were stunted growth right there. It took about 30 years to begin to recover. Actually, it was about in 1968 they started to push a little bit, but it was still pretty minor. I mean, it was a loosening up in the code. I think it was in '86 they had that Swamp Thing with the code on it, and then you had the Vertigo titles. So by the mid '80s, that began that whole exploration of more mature titles, and then you had different new independent publishers coming up. So, and the code just kind of relaxed and eventually went away. But we lost a lot of natural progression, and it established the mindset that, you know, comics were for children, right? So it became difficult to, you know, I know there's adult comics and blah, 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 but it, that became the marketplace, right? So we got like creators and copyright, collectors and content, censorship, and the kids, right? So that's kind of steered us to where we are now at this crossroads. I was going to say something about price. I mean, how expensive new comics are, but a lot of that is basically down to sales volume, right? So if you were selling 1 million a month of one title, I can guarantee the cost wouldn't be $4.99. They could knock that way down and still make a boatload of money. But the thing is, if you're selling 30,000 of a particular title, which is supposed to be one of your flagship titles a month, yeah, you're going to have to sell it for not only $4.99, you're going to have variant covers, different artists, for basically the same content, just to try and boost those sales, like the 1 in 10s, the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, 1 in 100s, like just to get people to order more so you can bring in those sales. So there we go. Yeah, I think it's been an interesting examination of, you know, why Western comics are where they are versus somewhere like manga, which, even though you had concerned groups in the 60s and 70s, like for example Go Nagai, they spoke out against it, there was never any censorship. So manga was allowed to sort of develop on its own, and whatever was there was where. Like, I've read some manga that, you know, I had no conception that this could ever be published. It affected me that greatly. It is like, wow, that people could take it that far. But yeah, there you go. It's basically straight. It's the creator's vision, right? And whether it be sickening or great, or just where they want to go, it's the story they want to tell. It seems like the Japanese respect that freedom to express your creative vision that way. Whereas because of the code, it's like a specter, isn't it? It's that lingering ghost of, you know, comics should be for kids, so you can't, even though I think nowadays we're finally past that point where if you look at Ed Pisker's Red Room, for example. I would like my next video, I'm going to do some of my recommendations for 2023, and you know, we'll see how we do. Like, again, it's buy what you like. But yeah, it was interesting for me. It seems like the industry is transitioning over to the independents. I can totally see in 2023, like especially DC, stopping the publishing, maybe licensing out to different companies or whatnot. But I mean, they're losing money on publishing. I don't think Marvel's doing a lot better either, to be honest. So we'll see what happens. But it's like how how far can Batman take you? How far can Spider-Man take you? And yeah, it's getting to the point where these characters have to take a heavy load to keep the company going, whereas you have something like Image, like brand new ideas. You've got wrestling comics now. You've got all these new 8 billion genies. What a revolutionary concept. Again, Image, right? This is stuff that nobody's going to take to Marvel or DC because they don't want to lose their intellectual property. It's you know, I could say like we could all see this coming, but it's happening now, right? You want to keep your stuff, and if Image is going to publish it for you and take a certain percentage, or you need to pay them or whatever, when you hit, you hit. It's the same with manga. Like you don't get paid much, but if it hits, if it goes on to an anime or movie or whatnot, it's yours. It's like you won that jackpot. You created something that people want to see and spend money on. So you're going to get a cut. Whereas working for DC Marvel, it's like you get a contracted amount and that's it. You're done, right? So anyways, yeah, next video, kind of what some of my recommendations will be. I think I'll surprise you with some of them. So they'll be a little different from normal. But anyways, hope everybody had a great Christmas and or holidays, and we'll try and get something out here shortly before 2023, and we'll see how I do on my speculation, even though my speculation is buy what you like. That's the best speculation. Anyway, talk to everybody later. Thanks. Bye-bye.